Spoilers follow for parts of Silent Hill 2. Concepts of space, being, and existence are entwined in ideas of mortality, time, and material economization. How long do we spend in a particular space? When I'm about to die, will I value the time I spent lingering here? Will I rue the fact I did not spend enough time existing in a certain place? We live in a global society wherein everything must have an outward purpose and existence must be quantified and justified. It is typically the question of money which makes extended periods of existence in a space more difficult. Virtual spaces are either a far better way to exist or a far worse way. We can think of it as wasted time, but we can also think of it as relaxing or as a way to connect to emotions we might not otherwise get to feel in our daily lives. The Silent Hill series is undeniably powerful in a huge number of different ways. The aspect I wanted to focus on today is the physical space, that is really the virtual space, that the character inhabits. How does this affect the mental space that reflects the virtual space in our mind? Because think about it, the designer creates the space in their own mind. It is then transferred into a digital space, which we almost assign as a physical space when we're playing through in our own imagination. Then when we step away, we take the place with us. As human beings, we take places with us all the time, not just people. The reason Silent Hill resonates even today is because they do such a good job of creating environments and characters that feel legitimately real. The former, of course, being the subject of this video. I thought long and hard about which location in Silent Hill to discuss first. There are so many contenders, from the alleyway in Silent Hill 1, the diner, the school, the mall. There's also the bowling alley, Brookhaven Hospital, and the prison in Silent Hill 2. The amusement park, the mall, the apartments in Silent Hill 3. I cannot leave out Room 302, the Forest World, or Water Prison World in Silent Hill 4. Even the inferior games, we could say, not developed by Team Silent, contain a few compelling places to visit. These are all spaces in which we want to soak in and simply attempt to exist within. The Shepherd House in Homecoming is a great space, for example. The forest or the mall in Shattered Memories. I could have even chosen the restaurant in Silent Hill 3 instead of Silent Hill 2's restaurant. In the end, however, I was compelled to discuss Team Silent's emphasis on a sense of mundane immersion in relation to Silent Hill 2's Lakeview Hotel. There is a lot I could talk about in relation to the hotel. When you reach it, both James and you have been through a lot. By this time, there's a weird connection between James and the player. You understand him and still feel quite distant from him. His motivations are entirely unclear. Rowing across the lake is a way to soak in a certain emotion. The game doesn't dictate to you in that space what emotion you should be feeling exactly, but the way the music drones and the fog rolls around and the lake seems truly endless puts you and James together in a mental fugue state. But James doesn't monologue, does he? He doesn't wonder at himself or his location. No, you never quite understand James, which is why everyone walks away thinking something quite different about him. Everyone has their own James Sunderland. The game saves its most devious tricks for last and pulls the carpet out from under you on several different occasions here. It's not those devious tricks I necessarily wanted to talk about today though. It's one of the quietest spaces in the game. It's not one I've really seen others talk about either. It's partly why I chose it. The ultra-specific location I did choose is just to the right of the entryway in the hotel, the Lakeshore Restaurant. If you've elected to watch this, chances are you've already played Silent Hill 2 before. Chances are you already have all the context jammed into your head already, seared into your brain by one of gaming's greatest ever stories. Certainly gaming's greatest ever psychological horror story. So there'll be spoilers from here on out. While I've done my best to avoid actually explicitly spoiling the main plot twist, I'll talk about a lot of things relating to it, which will undoubtedly ruin much of the game for you. If you haven't played it, I would obviously highly recommend it and experiencing it for yourself. It's one of the best games ever made. At any rate, James, the protagonist, has come to his final stop. The hotel where he hopes he can finally find his wife, Mary. The game has spent an incredible amount of time ruthlessly tormenting James physically and psychologically by a variety of nasty entities. Inside the hotel, he will face up to a number of hideous revelations. He must peer deep into the murky depths of several human souls, including his own. It is these moments that make Silent Hill 2 such a powerful, lingering experience, even 20 years on. However, I wanted to talk about the prelude to these moments. Lakeview Hotel is a deeply unsettling place. It is a definitive full stop on your adventure, but one crammed so full of atmosphere it can honestly make you want to put the game down. It's so stifling. Just look at this bit, the short segment through the corridor. The claustrophobic feeling is accentuated by its weirdness. The rest of Silent Hill has been grungy, gross, and grimy. Even the lakeside pier and the forest trail have been haunting locations, seeming run down and dilapidated. The hotel, however, is different, and we have to think about that and reconcile ourselves to it. The game is always trying to tell us something with its visuals, in this case, the way the hotel itself looks. James is seeing what isn't there. I've always liked the interpretation that we are playing the game from the town's perspective, that it is watching with glee as we try to save, or help, or even damn James. I like to imagine the camera is enjoying the emotions coming from both James and the player. The connection we feel to the game can become genuinely quite visceral. The town is controlling everyone in the story, and it controls the player too. It dictates rhythm and flow. Without doubt, you are under the town's thumb. So when James enters the restaurant, it's quiet and empty. The silence is abrupt. Akira Yamaoka, the sound designer for the Silent Hill games and a true master of his craft, knows that silence is just as effective as sound in horror games. Horror needs space to breathe, and Yamaoka gives just enough space so that the horror is quietly breathing down the back of your neck, even when things are still and calm. Silence, a quality present in every human, eventually builds to become anxiety if left long enough, and then that anxiety transforms into fear. Something I love about Silent Hill 2 is the loading screens between each room. Something I worry about as a small casualty, perhaps, of the remake on modern systems. Perhaps this is just my own infatuation with the game speaking, or perhaps Stockholm Syndrome of some kind, but I love the silence there, between rooms. The little moments of anticipation that heighten fear and uncertainty. The closing of the eyes before you open them once more. I adore the way the game flows, how each room feels like a universe unto itself, how the enemies within one room are there for a reason, contained within their own world, not following you in an awkward conga line from room to room. This is not to say that horror games without loading screens can't be effective and scary. We've seen plenty of those in the modern era. I'm not saying every horror game should include loading screens, but it's worth considering how even small details like that in video games work to construct particular moods and atmospheres. The world of Silent Hill is in some way clearly partitioned, unashamedly a video game, but also that old video gamey feel lends itself quite well to feelings of otherworldliness and suspense. The whir of the disk drive is part and parcel of the time the game is from. Can games be so simply remade without such elements? Just some food for thought. So the restaurant is definitely closed. You haven't seen any locals here your whole way through Silent Hill. There's certainly no reason to guess there'd be any here. But it doesn't seem like a place for monsters either. No particular grime or decay, no shuffling noises, no loud bangs. The chairs are stacked quietly on one side of the room atop tables, which seem to have been packed up one night. They've been left all alone. It is as though the restaurant closed doors one day and never reopened. No one, it seems, has bothered to sell or throw anything out. The things in this room, in this hotel, exist in some weird flux state. A lot of the town is bitterly decayed and abandoned, but in here, there's a gentle stillness, an unspoken melancholy in the space, a lament for the things that go without goodbye. Mechanically speaking, the environment here is almost useless. As a space within a video game, it exists as a single plot point. There's just one gameplay-related item to acquire here. It's a key with a fish keychain, which you need to unlock a small briefcase. Once this has been acquired, the player can leave. Or they can try to, anyway. As they go for the door, the child Laura bangs on the piano, providing a minor jump scare of sorts. A way to burst the bubble of tension and isolation that has been building in this one room alone. this tension that has also been bubbling throughout the whole game. The interaction that follows is one of the few nice and genuine interactions in Silent Hill 2, it feels like. A connection between James and Laura that you don't really get to see anywhere else, aside from perhaps the Leave ending, and even that is ambiguous. I personally never liked the explanation that James just adopted Laura, rather than he just guided her out of town. I never thought Laura would be comfortable with James ever again, after she learns what he's done. Laura speaks to James for a little bit, even tauntingly saying, "Did I scare you?" almost to the player as well. James sighs, almost cheerful, a moment of levity. "Yeah, you did." It's an odd moment from a character who's been so distant to us beforehand, and downright antagonistic towards Laura at points. Laura asks hopefully as to whether James has found Mary, whom Laura is also looking for. Of course, James says no. Laura is just as desperate to find her as James, it seems. It might be this desperation that finally drives her to give James the context he's been so sorely wanting throughout the whole game. Somehow I managed to play the game for the first time many years after its original release, knowing only that Mary was not alive. I knew nothing else about the game or about the mystery behind James's quest, beyond the fact that his quest would end in failure. I wasn't sure how she died, where James's quest would finish, and what the significance of the other characters was. This letter felt like one of the final steps towards understanding a weird gap between James's reality, where Mary died 3 years ago. It tells the story where Laura hasn't aged a day since Mary wrote this letter. "Happy 8th birthday, Laura," she writes. A nod to Laura's innocence too is when Mary writes, "I'm far away now in a quiet, beautiful place." She assumes Mary meant Silent Hill rather than the cold embrace of death. James tries to confirm this shift in time too, asking Laura how old she is. Laura confirms she's 8 years old, and this seems to give James new hope. There's some life in him. James tries to latch on to Laura's innocence too, saying,
"Could she really be here? Is this the quiet, beautiful place she was talking about?"
I love the voice acting in this game. It feels so dreamlike. That line from James is one of my absolute favourites. It conveys the quiet desperation as well as the hope he feels. When Laura tries to provide James with additional context, she realises she's dropped the other layer she has. Laura runs out to try and find it, leaving James and the player with the whole new world framework to exist in, and no further context to assist them. This is very clever because by now the player will probably be feeling pretty cynical about the whole affair, especially modern players. Clues have been dropped all over the place, some admittedly very subtle and very clever, but still, you know Silent Hill too well to realise that Mary's still alive. But then there's this letter, and this tiny detail, and it gives you hope. Before you were feeling a bit downtrodden, now there's a spark of life in the story again. A spark of life in James. Mary might very well be alive, maybe not here for a good reason still, but she might be alive. The other reason I like the letter is because of a very small point about video game interactivity. Cutscenes are one of the few places in video games where you don't get to dictate the pacing at all. In regular gameplay, you can mess around in spaces generally for as long as you like. In an open world RPG, for instance, you can almost always take as long as you like to do side quests before you do the main quest, other than in a game like the original Fallout, for instance. But in cutscenes, the developers dictate, so when you are given the letter to read yourself, it matters. James doesn't read the letter out loud, nor does Mary. You get to read it. You get to soak in every word yourself, giving yourself time to process it, to maybe fit the clues together yourself. I'm simply interested in quiet bits of interactivity and trust given to the player, ways in which the game signals that you can be trusted with this certain information. You can be trusted to figure it out, or to soak in the experience as you desire. So, for other players, this letter and this clue that Mary didn't die 3 years ago is merely an impetus to go on. You're so close now, the game tempts. Just a little further, and it will all make sense. But I couldn't leave this room. There's a very, very corporate idea of sonic branding, a sound or a music track that is made to be associated with a particular thing. This can range from a web page to an advertisement for a product. For me, video games are filled with these kinds of signatures. From a repeated voice line in a fighting game intro to the satisfying boom of a futuristic shotgun, games try to build association between a player performing an action and providing satisfying or entertaining sonic feedback. Silent Hill 2 does this by providing a sonic signature for a place or event in the game. Laura Plays the Piano, which plays over the cutscene we just discussed, is one of the best tracks Akira Yamaoka has ever written, in my opinion. It is a knife made of melancholy, rain droplets on the windshield of the car before they're stabbed away by the wipers. It is indelibly stamped on this room for me. The power of the piece is such that when I listen to it, I am transported to that place, to the haunting nature of the restaurant and its accompanying cutscene. As a space, it is located on the edge of the world, at the end of an emotionally traumatic adventure, the final destination. Thanks to the music, you can carry video game spaces like this with you. Such things allow you to be transported to places where you feel safe, or the complete opposite. Laura Plays the Piano is a safe retreat for me, a place where I can feel warm, oddly enough. But then this serene music bursts like a bubble at the end of the cutscene, and you're sucked back into the quiet, into the other atmosphere that Yamaoka does so well. It's worth talking about the general ambience of the Lakeview Hotel, because it truly is terrifying. It's exactly the way you imagine an abandoned building would sound like if personified, which is exactly why Lakeview Hotel's status as an abandoned building is made 10 times more intimidating by the haunting and repetitive noises. You'll note that the ambience never grates or overwhelms. It maintains a steady background pulse, a reminder that this place is off, that it's wrong, even while everything looks quite normal. Rarely does Yamaoka raise the horror noises to a pitched crescendo in Silent Hill 2. Only in tracks like Betrayal does he truly make the sounds horrifying and loud. Even then, there's a beauty to them. The music remains hauntingly inescapable, and that's what draws me back to listen to it, time and time again. My favourite part of this room is the large glass windows, just greater than the size and height of James. Outside there is nothing but thick, immobile fog. I can think of very little more atmospheric than this view, accompanied by the ambience, or the silence. Beyond the hotel there is nothing but the shadowy shapes of outside tables, still somehow set out, not packed away, just forgotten by someone, somehow. The fog is a part of Silent Hill, and often a dangerous part. It tucks away monsters just out of sight. It's a useful way to signal to the player that an area is mysterious and dangerous, and creates a constantly claustrophobic atmosphere where even open spaces are small and monsters can jump out at you at any time. But in this room, not a traditional safe room by any means, no save squares here nor typewriters, the threat of monsters feels distant for a brief time before he talks to Laura. Who can say what this room would have meant to James, what it still means to him? Did he have dinner here with Mary? Is the one table that is still properly set, with tablecloth and fork and knife, not properly packed away, is that where he and Mary ate alone? Some fish? The entire world forgotten? When the fog rolled in from the outside when they spent an evening together? Was that one of the last nights they were deeply in love, not worried about an illness? Interacting with the piano provides a precious piece of context to James and Mary's relationship when they did not know that she was going to die. When James interacts with the piano, he remembers how Mary loved to play it before they got married. Though she wasn't good at it, he liked the simple act of her playing. The details present within Silent Hill are never excessive to the point of you being overwhelmed by stuff to remember, or the horror noises being so prevalent that you just sort of switch the sound off. Most of the time things are just there, impressions, snippets of memories that come fluttering by that provide crucial but not all informative context for the game's story. It's not even essential, but it's truly remarkable. There are a lot of little details that are sustained by the less powerful graphical capabilities of the PlayStation 2 compared to today's hardware. See, the thing that I like, and that a lot of other people like about games of this generation in particular, is that your imagination still has to do a little work, but the games still look quite good. It's as detailed as they can get it, but there are still gaps in the hardware's capabilities. It is a sparse, yet detailed ambience. The developers aren't also tripping over themselves to add lens flares, or add excruciating gore or details to little things. Instead, the slightly murky pictures on the wall become your own, colours that blend into each other merely exacerbated by the plant life that still survives here somehow. It's a magical space, I think. I hope I managed to get that point across. It's such a small space too. Theoretically, you only have to exist here for roughly 2 to 3 minutes, and you can leave then and never return to it. But there's something really remarkable about a well-designed space, whether in reality or in the virtual world. In this instance, it is a perfect example of the unnerving peace of Silent Hill. The crushing meditative loneliness, at once calming and unnerving. I don't need high-fidelity graphics to understand the way in which the window must be wet with condensation. How if I rested my forehead against the glass, it would come away cool. I do not need ultra-detailed facial animations to tell me how to feel. Color and lighting do that all by themselves. Later on, after the great revelation, James sees the hotel as it really is, decaying, waterlogged, and the victim of an extensive amount of fire damage. You're never given the opportunity to return to the restaurant and see what it really looks like now post-fire. This made me wonder, what does this place look like now? And the bigger question for me is, if the fire destroyed the entire hotel and the place is waterlogged and horrible, what is it that Laura sees? Laura, the innocent child, is supposed to be unaffected by Silent Hill's various mind games. Yet she's seen interacting with this piano and drawing a cat on the fogged-up glass window. What does this mean? Is this yet another one of Silent Hill 2's mind games launched from 20 years in the past? Is Laura real or just another one of James's hallucinations? Is it something there to haunt him? The hallucination interpretation would damage the story a bit in my eyes, if I'm honest. It's like thinking that Deckard is a replicant in Blade Runner. It gets rid of the most interesting moral questions. Or is there something excruciatingly obvious that I've missed in relation to this question? More likely, there's no real, solid, agreeable answer. Silent Hill 2 was designed as an enigma. The answers to the game's questions are half supplied. The motivations for the characters, the reality of the scenario, how much is metaphor and how much is literal is left to you. That's why Silent Hill 2 persists to this day. The Lakeshore restaurant didn't have to technically exist as it does. It could have been a waste of space with lazy environmental design. Take away the piano, Laura's writing on the fogged-up glass, and the ability to even look outside and see the fog rolling on and on forever sluggishly, and the environment would mean nothing. But the thing is, environments in games don't have to mean anything. There are thousands of games out there that use environments as little more than set dressing for shooting or melodrama. Silent Hill is one of the few series that makes the environment shine all by itself without the gameplay even necessarily featuring. Because without that environment, without that space, the experience would be lesser. But the gameplay fits snugly around the environments like a glove, so the experience is greater than the sum of its parts, even when both parts are wholly engaging. The idea of existing in a virtual space is made appealing because designers spend time working hard on areas like this and crafting a unique mood and atmosphere to each and every room. There's likely a room in Silent Hill somewhere that acts this way for you too. You'll just have to play and find out, or replay and rediscover just what makes these games so special to inhabit. I wonder what will happen in the remake of Silent Hill 2. I discussed this a bit in the third stream I did. I wonder whether the remake will capture the melancholy, the malaise of a small room with a large window to an impassive, foggy world. Konami might forget about you, Lakeshore Restaurant, but I never will. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. So this is likely the first in a series dedicated to documenting and obsessing over video game spaces, appreciating mood, direction, and design. There's a lot that goes into making a good video game, right? And I wanted to spend some time appreciating the little things, hoping to show others why I love little bits of video games, why they work, and why we should focus on the small things before we make an open world map the size of New York City. Thank you so much for watching, it means a lot to me. As with all of my Silent Hill videos, it's been a passion project. I love these games, and it makes me terribly sad to know that we will probably never see something quite like it again. Also, if you enjoy this video and you have a few bucks to spare, I dearly appreciate